Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life.
Hats.
What was that?
I don't know. I was just trying to do something different.
Is that right?
Because it's always hats.
Is that meant to be interested? Is it?
Yeah, maybe. How you going?
I'm okay, mate. How are you?
I'm hot.
It is boiling.
Yeah, actually, well, can we talk about what's in your pocket?
Yeah, why not? Why not? Let's talk.
So last week, I think when I don't know, this might have been a Hats and Brendo pod. Hats was walking around with wet pockets, and I'm like, what's going on? And what he does is he puts little ice bricks,
the freezer blocks.
yeah, freezer blocks into his pockets.
Yeah, it's great.
To cool down.
Scottish guy.
Yeah.
I'm just feeling at home. I know that basically I walk around like I peed myself.
Yeah.
But out of my legs. So
No, and I think it's a great idea. I guess maybe doesn't agree so much.
well, let's ask Brisket. Brisket, is it a good idea?
Yeah.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Hey guys, I don't know, man. I'm not sold on the ice blocks in the pocket to keep you cool.
Yeah, look, I think it's something I like the idea, but I don't know that I'd actually go to the length of doing it because it'd be pretty bloody cold. Anyway, how you going, mate? Thanks for coming on.
I'm well, guys.
Do a little introduction. Maybe I'll tell you why Brisket's on. I guess Brisket is, a fellow Twitter guy, and a good solid poster. So you should all be following Brisket. But it was actually Wiz that he came down on a pod recently and had suggested you'd be a good guy to chat to, and just a free open riff with Brisket. That was basically the suggestion.
A riff-skit.
A riff, yeah. But here's the other thing. I don't know if you know Owen. So we had the best tasting brisket we've ever had about 2 weeks ago. So no pressure, but Brisket is like right now we've got high standards on Brisket. So mate, thanks for coming on.
That was from the bottom of his freezer. I heard the interview. That was really good. I love
It's really
that.
solid what Owen's doing actually. So yeah,
It's good fun.
but it was a good
really
one.
good
But the meat is good too. So
Yeah, but well, let's ask. The handle is Brisket. Are you a fan of Brisket?
I love brisket. I love
Yes.
beef. I'm a beef maximalist. I think beef is just one of those healthy meats. It's just the base layer of my diet. And brisket's just one of the cuts. It's not my favorite cut, but I'm not going to call myself rib fillet or rump. Like
rump.
Rump is bad.
You've been tagged by rump. Brilliant. So, mate, let's just do a price stamp. I was just saying to Brendo that I'm having trouble with Bitbo. Bitbo, go and fix that for
So
me.
am I, Bitbo.
So we're just going to do Aussie dollars tonight. We're at 59,848, down 1% in the day, but it is for the whole world. So somewhere is winning. It'll be up somewhere. So, mate, just keen to just have a chat, just an open book chat. If you're keen on that, you are up in Queensland. And you've been a Bitcoiner for how long? About 2 or 3 years? 3 years?
2 years now.
2 years?
So I was late 19. I bought my first after dicking around for a year. I came in as a carnivore. I came in listening to Shawn Baker's Human Performance Outliers podcast. They had Goldstein and Saifedean on. And I think Saifedean said something like, meat's the answer to fiat food and Bitcoin's the answer to fiat money. And something clicked and I went, yeah, that sounds really interesting. I knew about Bitcoin before, and you guys who are mining with GPUs and stuffing around with that. It never kind of clicked though. And that kind of got me thinking. It still took me a year to finally go, yeah, I'm going to put some cash into it. And that was 19. I dicked around trading with, leverage, got really burnt in March the following year and cursed myself for being an idiot and buying this magic internet money. And that's when I started researching. And I think it was around about when Sailor jumped in and went and did his thing that I kind of went, yeah, this is going big.
Did you find Sailor early? You found Sailor pretty quickly, did you? Or
I remember when he bought it. I remember listening to Preston Pish talking about how much he could be levering up his company to buy more, and it was just like all the pieces started falling into place. It was just self-evident. Yeah.
it's really interesting when you have somebody who you trust on one topic, or you're not necessarily trust implicitly, but you know they've built up a level of trust over a period of time on one topic, and then all of a sudden they introduce you to something else, and you think, oh well, maybe I should pay attention to that. Like if you just go cold on something with some stranger, that it always feels like a shill, and even from the Bitcoiner, particularly from us, it probably feels like a shill. But if you've got some other angle in, and it, you know, last one, who did we speak to last?
Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson's just killing it at the moment. Pierre Poilievre just did a 7-minute. Like,
I was at work and I just saw the thing and I'm like, I can't have the sound on, so, so I'm like, I bookmarked it anyway, so I'll check it out.
So it's good, but he does not mention Bitcoin once.
Doesn't mention Bitcoin. It's just
beautiful. It's just a sound money argument. It's exactly the same as Richard. So it was Richard James we had on last one. And same story. He was coming in from an Austrian economics perspective and coming in through that way. You've come in through the fiat diet way, but you've also had people who have maybe you've been happy to listen to the other ideas because you're happy with their first idea. Is that fair?
Yeah. When you like, I tune into the signal, so I'm looking for the signal. Are they full of shit, or are they saying something truthful? I don't have to buy into their opinion as long as their signal's strong. You can listen for it, you know, and you pick out the bits that you want to hear and what makes sense to you, what lines up, and follow that. I've gone through a 10-year journey in my diet more than anything. I went through every single diet I could think of except veganism. I didn't quite take to that. I did some really random dietary experiments, and each one you kind of learn a little bit and take the bit onto the next one. Carnivore was the last one. That's the one that's had the most impact. You know, low carb, all sorts of shit.
Yeah. So what brought you to start experimenting with the diet? Was it?
I was a fat bastard. I was 130 kilos.
Okay.
I'm 6'4". I'm a big bloke. But yeah, 130 was a bit too big.
Note to self: don't piss off Brisket.
I'm friendly, man.
Yeah.
So I just got really fat, and I did the old, you know, move more, eat less, eat lots of salads. I tried to push out the bad food with eating lots of good food, what I thought was good food. I found eventually low carb, and that was what really kicked off a lot of permanent weight loss. I then went to the high carb end. So I was like, well, if carbs are evil, then what if I went high carb, low fat? I did that for a while.
How did you feel on that? Horrific or? Not
too bad. My constitution's pretty good. I don't generally get sick anyway. I survived. I got a little bit fat. I put more weight on. And then when I went to carnivore after that, I had massive gallbladder issues. So I think the low fat kind of stopped my bile moving through. And I had a big gallbladder bout, I guess, on New Year's Eve when I started carnivore. And I thought, you're an idiot. You've done this carnivore diet. Now you're going to have a gallbladder explosion on New Year's Eve. But I survived. I still have my gallbladder.
So where are you now? What's the diet now? Is there a specific thing regimen you follow, or
just meat based? So I eat a lot of beef. So beef is the base layer of my diet. I sprinkle a bit of pork with the chicken. I eat white rice, white potato, eggs, cheese, whatever. The only things I don't really eat I don't eat vegetables. I eat a little bit of fruit. We're in the Queensland. There's fruit all around me. So I eat a bit of seasonal fruit.
Like Owen, when we talked to him, he was kind of talking about how, you know, he doesn't eat veggies either, and sort of thinks a lot of them.
Once you do carnivore, you realize you don't die I did carnivore for a year, pretty strict. I did meat only, beef only for the first month, and then went just to normal carnivore, which is anything from the animal kingdom. I didn't die. I didn't get sick. I felt great. It's hard work though. Like, there's so many things you'd want to eat that you just can't eat because of this one thing that, you know, that's from a plant. Yeah. So my thing is, my belief is that seed oils are toxic. So any seed oil or vegetable oil I don't eat. So that cuts out a whole heap of food from my diet. That's not good for it anyway.
So I've heard people say this about seed oils. I don't know. I don't have knowledge here at all. Is that nuts as well, or like, is it like sunflower oil, vegetable, that kind of stuff, or like?
It's plant seeds.
Plant seeds.
You think from a plant's evolutionary perspective, their seeds contain their genetic material, like how they pass on, their next generation. The plant protects that. It's got chemical protection against animals eating it. And that's the stuff that makes humans sick. The oil itself is unstable, so it's polyunsaturated, so the molecule isn't fully saturated. And it becomes unstable, so it oxidizes easily. You don't want oxidized particles in your bloodstream. You don't want oxidized cholesterol. You just don't want it.
So when you cook in like ghee or butter or fats, or what do you?
Tallow.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Beef
fat.
Yeah.
What's tallow?
Beef fat. Beef fat.
Beef
so you got lard,
nice.
which is pig fat. Tallow is beef fat.
So where do you get that from?
I make mine. I have a Twitter post describing how to make it. Like, if you just take beef fat trimmings, render it down, so you cook it. When you cook a roast, and there's all that fat on the bottom of the pan. You basically do that. I get cheap bones, brisket bones,
nice,
and I make a brisket pie, and from that I get a heap of fat. And the thing about the fat is, I don't know if you guys are buying into the whole meat space risk, the supply chain issues, and
it's certainly an issue just now.
Yes,
I kind of do buy into it, but right now we can sort of see potentially what might, like as an early indicator
could happen.
Of what might.
I think Australia's pretty well placed. We produce a lot of meat, we produce a lot of grain and food ourselves, but the supply chains are fragile. I know where I can get beef pretty quickly around here if things get bad, but it depends on where you live. So I've got the tallow, which keeps on the bench. I can eat it with a stock of rice or potatoes or whatever. And it's just pure energy. It's
how long does it last? You keep it out on the
forever.
fridge?
The shit lasts forever.
Really?
The Indians used to mix it up with dried meat, dried bison. And make the pemmican, which is like a survival food. And they wrap it in the hide of the animal.
Oh.
They found this old buried pemmican from hundreds of years old. Like, it's still edible. It's just dried meat with fat around it. And the fat stops the oxygen getting in there, stops the meat from spoiling. Lasts pretty much forever.
So what did you notice that when you sort of finally became sort of settled on the diet you're going to kind of stick with, what were the benefits that you felt, like health benefits, diet, weight benefits, energy? What did you notice?
The big ones, I've been lifting weights for a while, and my knees aren't very strong. They hurt when I do squats and deadlifts. I just be careful about my form. But my knees got stronger when I got rid of the plants. And I don't think it was adding the meat. I think it was more taking away the plants. I think the plants were causing me some sort of inflammation in my knees. Start of arthritis.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, he started talking about inflammation. Like, it's really autoimmune. Any autoimmune condition, because they start really from your stomach lining or your intestines, allowing proteins to go into your bloodstream. Once the proteins go into your bloodstream, your body starts attacking them. Like, your immune system kicks in and starts attacking these proteins, and then gets like crazy and starts attacking itself.
Yeah.
And a lot of modern health conditions are autoimmune based.
Yeah.
Wow. So, let's go straight to conspiracy then. What?
That didn't take long.
No, we can pull it back as well. But so, if an ordinary person living in Queensland can feel like they've worked this out, why do you believe that it's not solid advice provided to you by health professionals?
There's no money in it. Like, you look at the carnivores trying to make money. Those carnivore Aurelius trying to sell dried liver snacks, I think it was. Shawn Baker makes a bit of money out of it doing his podcasts, and he's got a few initiatives going. I don't think there's a lot of money in making carnivore stuff. There's no supplements needed. You know, you don't need, like, carnivore takes away all your supplements. I used to take a huge amount of supplements. I went through a Ray Peat phase where that was the low fat, high carb, where I cut out plant fibers, so the leaves and stalks and things like that. I just started taking them out. And they advocate, the peat advocate for bee sort of supplements and all these different supplements. And I spent a fortune on these supplements. And back in the early years, I used to eat a lot of spirulina and chlorella and all this green shit, and none of it gave me any benefit. And the carnivore thing was I dropped my last few supplements, my protein supplement, my creatine, the bodylifting supplement. The only thing I kept was magnesium. I think magnesium is pretty important. I ate a lot of salt. I think that's about it. It just, I don't feel the need for supplements anymore at all. I feel pretty healthy, pretty energetic. I think a lot of it was taking the plants out. I think taking the plants out gave me more benefit than anything I was bringing in. But meat, beef especially, is packed with nutrients.
So no veggies other than what, potato?
Potato, yeah, it's not even really a veggie, is it?
I don't know. Is it?
Yeah, technically maybe. I've been veggies for 3 years now.
Wow, and you look great, mate. Can I just say?
Thank you.
Look at that complexion, glowing.
Healthy beard.
And to drink water. Sorry, yeah, the beard is sorry, doxing the beard, but the beard is terrific.
Beef fat.
Beef fat. Ice or no ice?
No ice.
So, but I think a lot of people, when you say, "Oh, I'm going to go carnivore diet," they think, "Ah, shit, I couldn't afford to eat steaks all day."
Well, that's kind of what is in my mind,
right? So it's going. My question is, no, but add on to it if you want to. But my question is going to be, if you seem to have cut quite a lot of things out as well. So, do you feel like you spend more money on your diet or less money on your diet, or you just prioritize your diet more? That's my part. If you've got something to add, go for it.
No, well, I was just going to say, Owen was talking about, just being purely carnivore, and then finding a farmer or someone local, and you can buy half a cow or whatever, or go in with a mate or whatever, and then chest freezer and all, and you're away. So, but that's a good point. You know, if you're removing all these other things out, that end up going to waste in your bloody fridge drawer or turning to mush half the time anyway. It's so wasteful. I just think that there's a lot of people out there going, "Oh, it's all good. It's all okay for you rich Bitcoiners. Like you can eat your steaks every." I genuinely think people will believe this, right? And whether it's it's all very well, you got Bitcoin 10 years ago and you eat steaks every day. Lucky you. But what's the reality? Is it more expensive? Or, go on. There's the question. Great question.
I think it's it starts off more expensive, because you've got your whole stock in the cupboard. You've got all your attachments that you've already bought, and you're stocking up with beef, you're stocking up with spices and things to cook it. And I bought a $1,000 barbecue, which God knows what that was in Sats at the time. Because I was using my barbecue every day.
I like barbecues. Can I ask what kind of barbecue you got?
Kamado Joe. So it's like the big green egg.
The big one?
Oh no, not the Big Joe. I wish I'd bought the Big Joe. I got the normal Joe, the regular Joe.
So I'm like a Weber kettle guy, but I've seen these Kamados and they look phenomenal.
Oh, they're fucking brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. They're ceramic. So with the Weber, they don't hold the heat. Like you're constantly out there checking to make sure it hasn't dropped or it's not too hot, not too cold. You're babying all day. You set a brisket up at 7 a.m. Open the window down the bottom just a little bit to let the air in, and just a little bit up the top. And I know that sucker will sit at 110 for 6-7 hours.
Really? Without having to add any more charcoal?
No, nothing. It's just load it up at the start of the day. You start it in the middle and it just burns down and through. And it just holds that temperature all day.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely amazing.
I'm sold.
It-
Anyway,
it
sorry, what
changed
was the
your life.
question?
The question was, is it expensive to
Oh,
be?
does
Is
it
it
cost too
expensive
much?
to go on the carnivore diet?
Sorry.
Initially, because you don't know where to buy your meat. Like you start going to Woolies and you go get your $25 a kilo rump, and you go, shit, this is going to cost me a fortune. I get my rump for it's gone up a little bit recently, gone up 5-10%. Well, I was getting it around about $9-10 a kilo to buy a whole rump, like a 6-7 kilo rump, big butcher's knife, and I chop that up. I grind my own mince. I like burgers a lot. I eat white bread occasionally. So I grind my own mince up from the rump. I take the picanha off, which is the top cap. So the rump's this big great thing, and then the picanha sort of sits on the top.
What's that like the skin or the fascia or something?
It's a thin cut on the top of the beef rump, and the South Americans absolutely love it.
Yeah.
It's really beefy. Like it's the beefiest part of a beef that I found. It has this deep beef, and the fat on top of it's like butter. Like it just, your appreciation for beef fat goes up.
Really?
It's just gorgeous. Yeah. Very underrated though. Like Central American, South American countries, it's the best bit, and then the Americans go for the ribeye.
Oh, I haven't had dinner. I haven't had dinner tonight, and I'm really feeling it.
What was I going to say?
Let's just talk more about meat.
Yeah, exactly. Where was I going with that?
Cost and conspiracy and. I mean, going back to say supplements, you're dropping supplements, and then because they're damn expensive, you know what I mean? So
it's all those add-on costs that you don't really factor in initially, but and the stuff you throw out. Like I was going to the markets every weekend, buying a heap of vegetables, and by Monday, Tuesday they were wilted, and I was giving the chickens, throwing them out. So you don't spend money on food to throw out. Everything you buy, you eat. Well, you don't eat it. My dog eats it. Nothing gets wasted. We don't throw anything out. A lot of empty food, like the kids. I've got 2 kids. When we started transitioning to more meat, they stopped snacking. They just ate 3 meals a day now, whereas before it was like every hour they were asking for a snack. It's like, what the hell you just ate? It was the grapes don't cut it. My daughter doesn't like it. My daughter prefers sugar and carbs and all those sorts of things. My son's all over it. He loves meat.
How old are your kids?
That's funny. My son's 15, daughter's just about to turn 14. Yeah. So there's close gap. They've always been homeschooled, so they've never been a traditional school. So I was red pilled quite a while ago. Around at the GFC.
You're a Bitcoiner. You've been a Bitcoiner waiting for Bitcoin, basically. Yeah. For a long time.
I hit gold. So I was like, the government's corrupt. Money's bullshit. What do I do? And people put me onto some of the conspiracy theorists back around 12 years ago, 13 years ago, and it was gold. And I started looking at gold and went, this is just too freaking hard. Like, how do I buy it? And then when I want to sell it, how do I sell it? It was so illiquid and hard to verify. All the things that's so easy with Bitcoin, and yet it took me so bloody long to find Bitcoin. I think everyone's got that.
Yeah. I mean, I had this with Brenda. I mean, I've never bought gold, but remember when you were first, you'd bought some Bitcoin, and then you were like, well, I want to buy some gold or some silver now. Remember that? How did I go about that?
Exactly.
And it's like, man, just don't. But then you looked into, you're like, but if you look into gold and silver after you've bought Bitcoin, eventually you go, no, why would you do this? This is ridiculous.
It's too hard.
It's far too difficult.
No, but what I did at the same time was I bought shares, and so I bought mining stocks and
you like set up a combine cap and bought some shares
and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
but you felt like you needed to go through it, and that's fine.
Oh yeah, exactly. That was my journey, and I only said to my mate my mate up the road the other day, I'm like, if I put the money that I put into shares,
have you done the numbers?
Yeah.
It's the barbecue issue, isn't it?
Oh man,
what does your barbecue cost in sats? That's a great one.
But if I did that and just went all Bitcoin, like it'd be all over. So anyway,
but
let's move on. Back to me.
Listen, I love those stories. People just need to learn that those stories are Your best story does never starts with this one time when I was being totally sensible. That never happened, right? Your best story is this one time when my mate was being an absolute ass and I drank too much and blah, blah. That's your best story, right? And you nearly lost a leg or whatever. That's your best story.
Yes,
right?
True.
And that is true of Bitcoin too. Like this one time when I bought, one Bitcoin for $200 and, sold it for 250, thought I was a legend.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good story.
Yeah.
But you don't have to beat yourself up over those things.
It's hard. It'd be hard not to, though, I reckon.
That's the lesson that keeps you going through those tough times. Like when you want to sell, when you get doubts, like those sorts of things that keep you going.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So hang on, mate. Let me just get the timeline then. So you said 19. So we're you'd have been in before the big crash of,
before me.
It was just starting to go up. It was starting to go up ahead of the halving. So all the halving hype was going, is it priced in? Isn't it priced in? And I'm like, oh, this is a sweet deal. This is gonna, 10x, 20x. I'll be able to buy some. I'll be able to sell it. I'll be able to pay off the house, and everything will be sweet.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I thought it was a scam. I thought it was a scam, and I'm almost ashamed to say that I was going to buy some. And let it go up, and then sell when it was at the top. The typical trader story. I thought the underlying asset was a scam. I thought it was a Ponzi scheme, and I was going to make some money out of it. Real old thinking, legacy thinking. It's funny to think about now. It just seems so stupid. Like the mentality of that thinking of buying something, cheating someone else out of their value, and then benefiting from it. It feels so stupid now.
It's just
it's how people get
premise
conned.
of the whole financial system.
But
though,
that's exactly it. Is that it feels like now it feels wrong, and you feel like you were doing the wrong thing. But before you had the knowledge of Bitcoin, that's what you had to do to get ahead. You had to shit on someone.
Kind of trained.
Yeah, you had to shit on someone else to get ahead.
Yeah.
Right? That's the only way you could do it.
Episode title.
You had to shit on someone.
You
have to shit on someone else.
What is it? Episode 24? Episode 24. You had to shit on someone to get ahead until now.
I think we'll let Brisket come up with the title. But once you know, you're like, oh, me doing what's right for me is actually good for somebody else as well. And the feeling of
win.
The feeling is so much better.
It is. I do a lot of sales training in my role, my legacy role, and we talk about win-win situations. Like how can you have a customer conversation? How can you sell someone something and have both people win? There's this kind of assumption with sales that sellers are bad. They're just ramming shit down people's throats. There's this lovely balance where you deliver value to the customer, and the customer delivers value back in the form of payment. The sellers aren't realizing, because they've come from this background of selling widgets for a buck. They're pushing widgets out the door, and they don't understand how much value they have in the conversation itself. So how much value are they bringing to the customer in having a conversation? They're dealing with customers' problems all day, every day, and they don't understand how much value they bring in the conversation. And customers are quite happy to pay for that value in the form of buying their products. And that exchange is just, it's everywhere. Once you see it in Bitcoin, you see it everywhere. There's this subjective value everywhere. People are always looking for value, and you've got value. You just don't appreciate how much value you bring to the situation. I think that's what Bitcoin gave me. It gave me this framework to see everything better. I don't know about you guys, but my performance at work went up phenomenally. Like once I started getting that stuff in Bitcoin, it was like I could see all the value everywhere. It's like a sixth sense. You could see it everywhere.
So your legacy job, right? Without going into detail, are you, as now a Bitcoiner, are you turning up to work and because this is where I am at the moment, I find it hard. in the government role, basically, and I've tweeted about this before, where there is so much wankery and sub meetings and meetings about meetings, and it's just wasteful. It's just rubbish. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm waiting to get out. But like, how are you with your legacy role?
Some days, yeah, it's hard. Some days the bullshit is through the roof. You can't just nod and smile and go on your way. They have to force you to subject yourself to this kind of, you got to participate in the meeting. You got to add some crap to the shit pot, and stir it around with everyone else. Yeah, sometimes it's hard, but other times, I don't know. I feel like I get more. My industry's strange. Like people want me to be creative. There's a lot of demand for creativity in what I'm doing, so I get to get that out of me. Like there's a part of a human that wants to express creatively.
Yeah.
If you can do that at work, that's great. You get a real buzz out of that. It's that horrible ass kissing. I don't know how many times I've sworn. Have I gone over the swear limit?
No, fuck no.
Fuck. Sorry, guys. Put yourself out,
the circle jerking.
I don't think anyone said cunt yet on this.
Oh,
pod.
there you go. There's trying to see.
I'll drop it. So go for it, Brisket.
Yeah. I don't know whether I struggle more when Bitcoin's peaking or when it's at the bottom. I don't know.
Yeah.
When it's at the top, I can't focus. I'm just looking at the price, going, "Ooh,
I'm out of here."
I don't have to be here anymore.
I'm going to need a pull buy.
I think taking the fear out of losing my job was the big one.
Yeah.
I think once the price started kicking up a little bit, it was like, okay, well, I don't actually need to be fearful of losing my job. I don't have to worry about feeding my family. I don't have to bow over to everyone. I can speak freely. And if the worst happens, then I have to go find another job, and I'll be okay for the next month or two while I find one. That was really empowering. And I think there was a noticeable change in how I presented myself to people. I would tell execs how I felt.
Yeah, more confident and more yourself.
And it was valued. It was so surprising. Like when I dropped that fear, how much more valued I was and how much more value the conversations I brought had.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, why didn't I do that years ago when I was, trying to make money and get myself up the ladder. Now I don't give a shit about the ladder, and suddenly it's all opened up.
Did you find you started to get a bit more respect from the other side as well when you start to present yourself in that way? Do you find how is that taken by the person you're talking to at work? I'll give an example, right? So I was a procurement guy, Scottish government. I used to spend the taxpayers' money. Am I doing the mic wrong?
Stay in front of it.
And so I used to call. But I was permanent staff for a long time, and I went, I can't deal with this shit anymore, and I left, and then roundabout way came back and became a contractor in the same damn job, right? But getting paid whatever 2 or 3 times more, so it was less painful. I did one contract at one point. I finished up on the contract, been there for probably 18 months. Got good relationships with the people, and left, and I had another, someone else in my mind. And the guy who I was working for, like 3 days later, gave me a call, and I was like, "Oh, hey, Rob, how you doing?" Thinking, I'd left a pen in the office or something like that. And he said, "No, I've got just doxed myself."
Time stamp.
Yeah.
Yes, I've been really good lately.
Yeah,
You're doing it.
That doxed me.
Yep.
What can I do for you? He says, "I've got something else. I got another job for you if you're keen." I'm like, "Mate, I only left 3 days ago," and I just, I didn't want to say no, right? But I did want to say no, but I had a good relationship with this guy, and he was a nice guy. So what I said to him was, "Oh, mate, I've got other plans. If I was going to come back, I'd have to give you a silly number, and I don't want to charge you that." And he said, "Tell me, what's the number?" I gave him the number, and he said, "Give me 10 minutes." And he came back, and I was like, "Oh, what have I done?" Like, and so he phoned me back. "Yeah, that's no problem. That's been approved." I was like, "Oh, you are kidding me." So then I went back. I went back in. I was back for another year and a half, like doing this crap. Now, granted, I was being paid more, but that was just here's the point. I was putting when all of a sudden I was dictating more of the way the relationship went than they were. All of it, the level of respect I started to get back was actually much greater as well. So maybe if the Bitcoin puts you in a position where you can be a bit more forceful in your role, all of a sudden the response actually starts to get better too, and the level of work you end up doing in your role gets better. Everybody wins.
I think it's the value thing again. Like, so when you say no, when you put yourself up there, if you give your stuff away for free, no one values it. It's free. Who values
hang on,
free
man.
stuff?
No one's paying us for this podcast.
I know.
Are we paying Brisket though? Are we paying Brisket?
Sorry, mate. Go on.
And then the subjective value goes up. So they see your value as being higher because now you're not suddenly so available. When I worked in government, my rule was don't ever reply to an email straight away. You always delay it. Even if you can answer it straight away, always delay it. In sales, you never answer the customer's question straight away. You talk to them and find out more details. As soon as you solve the problem, they're at the door gone. You have to play this game of subjective value, and how do you elevate your value up higher? And one of the greatest ways is saying no. Like, as soon as someone can't have what you offer freely, it suddenly becomes more valuable. I want it. How much is it worth? There's always a price. I'm currently on contract, working in the same job I was working in 3 years ago. When March 2020 hit, I got made redundant. I took a very large package and I eventually put it all into Bitcoin. And then they brought me back 6 months later on twice the salary I was on before, except now it's a week-to-week contract and I don't have that, security. I don't mind. I'm quite comfortable with that now. I feel it's a more transparent relationship. If you don't like me, I don't have to do a performance review each year. I don't have to do all this crap that employees have to do. If you don't like me, get rid of me.
You get rid of me, exactly right. If I'm not good enough, get me out the door. And you'll perform better as a result.
Yeah. I'm held accountable each week, because I know my contract can be stopped at any point in time. So I'm more honest about it. I'm more transparent. They're happy. And then there's that whole arrangement, do you have employees anymore? Is it ethical to have contractors when you need them and just get rid of them when you don't need them? Which Australians don't seem to like. They like their solid job. I was born in England, by the way. I grew up with migrant parents. So I sound Australian because I've learned to sound Australian, but I always found myself a bit of an outsider to Australians.
So, see, because I thought I was picking an accent. I thought you were like maybe
my accent's all fucked up.
US-ish.
Yeah, so there's a bit of a US twang in there too. Yeah.
Whereabouts in England, or were you? Sorry.
I don't even know. It was Suffolk, I think.
Okay, wow. How old were you when you came out?
One. So very young.
Wow.
So my parents brought me over. They bought a house in Springvale in Melbourne, which is a kind of a Vietnamese migrant area. Just 20, probably 40 years now. So I grew up going to school with Vietnamese guys, Turkish guys, Lebanese guys.
Oh, you get the whole mix.
I got the whole mix. And then my parents decided to move out to the country because why not? And then it was a real cultural shock. I still had an English accent as a kid. All these Australian kids were making fun of me for saying branch and certain words I just picked up on. Ruthless.
Kids are brutal.
Oh yeah,
kids are absolutely brutal. And which can be funny, but it can be hard. It can be difficult too.
And then you turn into a 6'4" behemoth.
Yeah, the little
I get picked on
little
so
kid
much.
from history classes all of a sudden not so big. So that's quite interesting. You grew up around a lot of sort of migrant community. How does that shape your thinking as well? Because you obviously people anybody who's part of a big migrant community, there's still a lot of association with home. People talk about it all the time. They holiday there. They travel to there. They transmit money between places. Did that have any effect on you, or do you think it did?
My next door neighbor was running a sweatshop in the garage, and I remember going around there. They were Vietnamese, and I'd hang out with Moy, the daughter, and we'd eat pumpkin seeds in the garage while we turned sweaters, jumpers inside out that they'd sewn together on these sewing machines. And I thought it was completely normal. They had roosters in the middle of Melbourne. They had roosters, and the whole garden was a vegetable patch. The fights we used to get into in the playground were just insane. The kids were just they're not messing about. Like they would come at you with sticks, and they were trying to take blood, and there was no teachers. I don't know where the teachers were. they weren't in the playground. It used to be quite scary. And then I went to the country, went to Swan Hill, which is up Mildura, kind of, flat, red earth, dry farming land. And the kids used to cry when I punched them. And I was like, what's going on? Like, I thought that was normal, Yeah. So I had to learn to fit in. I spent my life fitting in. And then suddenly with Bitcoin, now I can be myself. I can be my autistic, weird self, and no one can stop me. Like there's nothing to fear anymore.
That's a nice feeling. That's a nice feeling, I suppose. Like without knowing how old you are, but to have years of that experience and then find something that just goes, oh yeah,
And it's not like you want to. Well, sorry, not put words in your mouth, but like it's not like you want to force your opinion on other people. It's just that you can have your own opinion, express your own opinion,
express yourself, right? Yeah.
And then if other people don't like it, that's okay.
Yeah. It's a really freeing feeling. I think everyone has this deep desire to express themselves, to be heard. And I think the dangers come in when you suppress that, when a man can't express his manliness because he's feared of being toxic, toxic masculinity. Men are meant to be men. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, as long as you're not infringing on other people's right. And that was the other thing. Bitcoin gave me this very clear set of principles. If I'm not infringing on your right to do what you want to do, then it's quite okay. Yeah. I feel that solid base of right and wrong is giving me a lot of freedom to express myself without fear of hurting someone accidentally. Now I know if someone gets hurt, I've either missed my cues wrong, like socially a little bit awkward, or they're just a little bit precious. It's something I've triggered by what I've said in them that's caused the issue.
And and you don't have to get on with everybody. That's not the goal. The goal is to sort of find your tribe and engage with them. But like if everybody wanted to live, in the same city, it'd be awful. Right, because we'd all live in the same city, and it'd be awful. If everybody wanted to be a gymnast, being a gymnast would be awful. Anything, pick anything. So
how'd you arrive at gymnast?
I have no idea. I just looked at Brisket and I thought, gymnast. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
But that's the point. That's the whole point. Everybody has to.
That's the point of diversity. Like
yes.
They talk about diversity in the workplace, but they don't talk about diversity of ideas. Like you've just got to tick the boxes. Have you got the black person? Are you an Asian? Do you have this quality, this physical trait? It's not what diversification. That's not the value that diversification brings. It's the value of diverse ideas. It's the conflict where the value is. If I'm butting heads with someone, it's because there's something wrong. This either I'm wrong, they're wrong, or there's something wrong about the model or how we're framing it. And there's value exploring that.
We're all
and even Bitcoiners on Twitter,
unless you disagree with us, and then.
Well, did you see? There was a video circulating the last couple of days of somebody has set up a marketplace for people who are not vaccinated, and the media. There was a media reporter reporting from outside because she had not been allowed in, and she was furious that she hadn't been allowed in. And you're sort of thinking, thinking
because she's vaccinated.
Yeah, because she's vaccinated, right? Which is quite amusing, right? And I'm thinking, hang on, so you're not okay with segregation unless it's on your own terms, right? It's just like it's the I don't know, the tunnel vision there is unbelievable. The hypocrisy is incredible.
Hypocrisy,
yeah.
So I love it when Bitcoiners say something controversial, like controversial amongst Bitcoiners. They say something radical, and I like it. Not necessarily because I agree with them, but I like the way this conversation is going to go. That's something I thought.
Let's popcorn time.
Instead of just nailing it on the head, no, you can't say that because that's wrong. That's not Bitcoin. They'll explore it and you go, oh, wow, there's value in that. Yeah. Why can't I say that? What's so wrong about it?
Yeah, I've had a go at the laser eyes brisket, and people have not taken too kindly to that, but it's fun.
Yeah. Well,
hey, look at you, I've triggered him already.
No, not at all.
I can see your little face getting tense.
No, I totally get where you're coming from, and like it's kind of laser eyes that people just like. I still have laser eyes on my thing.
I know. I'm not asking.
But I've forgotten about it. You know.
I know. I'm just pressing, but I'm not saying it to piss people off.
Yes,
you
are.
I'm
yes,
not,
you
well,
are.
I'm not. I don't. I'm not. Well, I'm certainly not saying it to make you change your mind.
Yeah, no.
And I love it when I personally get triggered by, same as you, Brisket, when somebody's put something on like, oh, that's a bit far, that's a bit much.
You start typing, it's like, no.
Yeah.
You know, you go, why am I so triggered? What
Yes.
are they saying that so triggered me? You know.
Yeah.
And then you get to personally explore it. You walk away from it and you come back and you go, oh, they've got a point. You know, there's something all these people criticizing Australia. Australia's a prison island, you know. And you start to go, oh, fuck you, you know. Australia's a really good place to live. Except
that's a funny feeling, hey, because that's happening a lot. You know, like Australia is dead and blah blah blah. It's just like,
but
I'm still here and I'm a good guy.
I think it's worth fighting for. It's a good place. Like it's such a beautiful place.
Yeah.
But we've got to change, you know. But we've got to change everywhere. There's a whole heap of stupid shit going on that's got to change.
Yeah.
It has to.
It will.
So are countries even relevant anymore, Brisket? Let's go there.
Yeah, they got passports. There's lines, jurisdictions. You know.
Like it's a country's an idea. I think like patriotism is quite a clever method of control.
Yes.
Right. I don't know if you're a sports guy. Brendo's not a sports guy. I quite like my sports, but it's a very easy way to.
No. Come on. I like some sports. I just don't like Scottish football.
Soccer.
Right. Okay. Well, nobody, not even Scottish people like Scottish football. We just go right. I mean, Brisket's obviously got the gymnastics to fall back on, but if you trigger somebody on their football team or their country, what is wrong with us?
The whole burning the flag thing.
It's a tribal.
Yeah.
But do we need it? Is it necessary, or to become?
We're gonna have tribes. We have to have tribes. We're tribal, genetically tribal. You know, we evolve with tribes, so we have to have them.
So what do the new tribes become, or do we need new tribes, or what are they?
I think they're more likely to be around your locations. So.
I want you and my tribe, Brisket.
I want you guys too. I'd love to have my whole thing is get some land. I'm on 2 acres here, and I want more. I've not got enough distance from people, and I think, well, what would living on 400 acres look like? I'd want Bitcoiners around me, or if not Bitcoiners, people that have a similar base level of, you know, respect and values that I, you know, I don't have to agree with you every day. I like to have arguments, you know, arguing's fun.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about shit that just doesn't make sense, like I grow very tired very quickly and I just want to walk away.
But like that's the whole point of
as a gecko.
Like a gecko, yeah. The science, right? Science never progressed.
Consensus.
Yeah, it never progressed because everybody agreed with everybody else, right? It only progressed because somebody had a different idea. They went and tested their hypothesis. They found out they were right or they were wrong. They came back. They presented it. We moved forward, and it should always be questioning.
Yes,
always. That's the whole fucking point of science, right? And the fact that we're getting this is 100%. You know, you cannot see this in science.
Can't question it. Don't question the science.
No, that's ridiculous, right? But what shits me is that the scientists are getting involved in this now. Or they were probably never scientists in the first place. Maybe they're just exposing the ones who were never scientists in the first place.
Yeah, I think the scientists have been quiet. They get funding. They rely on public funding, just like universities and all these structures. They rely on someone ticking a box so that they can get more funding.
Well, when you've got like Coca-Cola funding scientific studies, there's something
diet
about nutrition.
Diet studies.
Yeah. And they do.
Yeah, it's bonkers though. It's bonkers. Like
you just
it's
you got to do your own research. You have to do your own research. You know, you got to do your own experiments. You know, the whole diet thing was not that. This seems logical. Let's see how it works. You know, and I invested a lot of time. I eventually got somewhere that I think is valuable, but you don't need to go that far. You can trust someone like Owen, not necessarily me. You trust someone else and then try it out. You know, you can skip all the other shit. You know, skip the low fat, high carb stuff. Just go straight to the source.
I mean, frankly, mate, I'm at the very beginning of that journey. I've not come in from that angle, and I've only, I have some health issues. I don't necessarily need to go into just now, but for me, I've just gone, right, cut the sugar and just see.
Sugar's the one I disagree on. I think sugar's going to make you fat, and it's going to increase your blood sugar level. It's going to make you less insulin sensitive. So yeah, that's going to cause problems, but it's not the sugar itself that causes that. Like the polyunsaturated fat is what causes you to metabolically slow down. It's what causes all this real damage. If you're metabolically healthy and you have sugar, your blood glucose goes up, you build a little muscle, you fill your muscle glycogen stores, and you're ready to go. It's not harmful as such. It's when you add all this other crap on top that it makes it dangerous.
So what is it? Is it brisket, Skittles?
there's a pod title. So hang on. Let me just translate that for the idiot here.
At seed oils, as a matter, you have to cut seed oils out. Cut your margarine. Throw your canola. Go through your packets and see, like, there's canola oil and freaking everything, And the way you can counter some of that, if you do want to have a little bit of vegetable oil that's wrapped up in whatever, a pastry or something like that, you add some saturated fat, because the saturated fat will buffer out, sort of stabilize the unsaturated fat. And this is all my opinion, not backed by any science other than some other shit I've read off some weird website. The thinking is the saturated fat buffers the unsaturated fat and makes it more stable.
So what's your opinion on grapeseed oil? Same thing?
It's a seed oil, man. Like, just don't bother with it. Why do you need it?
Well, my wife now buys grapeseed oil because something to do with olive oil and a high smoking point or smoking point, a high smoking point.
So you can cook it a little bit higher. Yeah. You can cook with it more easily.
Yeah.
Beef fat, man. Just go to the supermarket. You don't have to make it. You just go to the supermarkets in the where the butters are. There's usually lard, tallow,
fuck yeah.
And I think they have sometimes animal shortening. But yeah, you get a little block. I think it's $4 or $5 for 250 grams, so it's about $20 a kilo. Not super expensive. No one buys it. It's only the old people, the boomers that tend to buy the tallow and the lard.
Yeah. It's still alive.
Yeah.
There you go, guys.
Meat and potatoes. That there's a reason that it's a thing.
Yeah.
I eat a lot of meat and potato. Steak and potato just go so well together.
Yeah.
So marriage.
Nice.
So hang on,
more?
No, I'm jumping about crazily.
That's all right.
But yeah, so the where was I going? Yeah, so I was going back to work type of thing. I still feel that people who are doing their fiat, the legacy job, their fiat job, are probably the most and stacking Bitcoin as best they can, are probably the most influential and people in the space completely, because what they're doing, anybody who's working a Bitcoin job is 100%. If you're 100% in the Bitcoin economy, you're not bringing anything else new to it. You're bringing a business or a service, and granted that's fantastic, but you're not bringing anything in terms of monetary value anymore.
Well, that's only if they're getting paid in Bitcoin.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
I think their intellectual value is being brought to the table.
Oh, completely.
I think, the number of times where I've talked to someone at work and gone, and at the end of the conversation, can I ask you a question? Do you Bitcoin? Like, just because they're so based and they're so out of the box thinking, they're just, or they're a little bit autistic, and you go, oh man, like I resonated so well with you. Do you Bitcoin?
Wow.
A lot of the time they don't,
Well, that's
but
okay, but a lot of the time,
that's awesome.
Yes, I've said to a lot of people, oh mate, you're a Bitcoiner, and they're like, I'm not a Bitcoiner. I say, mate, you're a Bitcoiner.
Yeah.
You just don't know it yet.
Yeah, you just don't know it yet. Exactly.
Another pod title.
Yeah. I mean,
God damn.
Said, Wiz,
fucking hell,
God,
dude.
I'm back.
I'm gonna mark that again.
So Wiz said that we should talk to you about learning.
So I'm just going to...
Oh yeah, no worries, mate.
Was he getting a beer?
Sing us a song while we're...
All right. The song come out.
God, where did you find that?
I don't know.
It already doxed Wiz.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's 2 for you, man.
Two. We should actually keep a running scorecard or something.
Yeah, we should.
You were 10.
Dog's jar.
The dog's jar. Yeah.
Dog's
That's
jar.
good. The dog's jar.
Dog's jar.
We could buy sats with a dog's jar. That's a good idea.
That is pretty good.
Yeah, do it in sats.
Yeah,
Multi-sig.
There you go. It's a great idea. Learning.
Totally transparent.
Why should we talk to you about learning?
Oh,
Stop it!
50 sats.
Jeez.
he's one of the few Bitcoiners I know by first name. We've had chats. Like when I watch Wiz facilitate, and he does facilitate. There's a difference between trainers and facilitators. Facilitators, they don't just stand up there and distribute information. They pull it out of the people in the room. You know, he does it really well. He's like a natural. Some facilitators have a natural knack for doing that. They interact with the room just as a like sixth sense. They just start doing it, start asking questions. They draw information. They draw the value that's coming from the room rather than bringing it and going, "This is what I've got." He's able to draw it out of people. So I've had my gut feel was he's got a facilitation background, you know, because of my bias around that. You know, I had a chat with Wiz about game theory. I got into game theory 8 to 10 years ago when it was all on sort of just web pages. There was no Bitcoiners around talking about it, and it was more about the Cold War and how that evolved with the US and the Russians about to nuke each other, and they used game theory to try and figure out, you know, what was going to happen, you know, what was going to happen when this happened, you know, and they had all these different ways, scenarios. And for me, the biggest, like looking through game theory and text is really dry, and trying to figure out all these tables and which does this when that happens. But my biggest takeaway from that was that humans become unpredictable when they start acting in other people's best interests. So when they start looking out for your interest, or they become unpredictable, you don't know, like game theory hinges on the individual looking out for their own self-interest. And when humans start looking out for other people's self-interest, they're acting irrationally. They're no longer acting within the bounds of what we expect them to do. They're doing something unpredictable. And I thought that was really, really interesting. I still don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I can't remember why that was to do with Wiz. I think it was just a conversation we had.
Yeah.
It was him that mentioned to us that we should talk to you about just learning and just generally.
I've had probably 20 years experience in learning now. I got an IT degree, and then to pay for my IT degree towards the end, I started doing doco, like system documentation, writing training manuals and doing all that sort of stuff. And then when I got my IT degree, I got an IT job, started programming. I think I got 8 to 10 months into that and went, this isn't for me. I'm just not a programmer. I wasn't that good at it. I could sort of hack away at it. I can read code and debug code, but it's not my key strength. It was the human side that kind of interested me more. So I got into learning. I moved to Canberra for the money. There's a lot of training money in government, you know, SAP implementations and system training. I spent about 18 months in Canberra before I just lost my shit. I think that's around about when the GFC hit. Yeah. And I decided to move to Queensland, which is a really dumb move because I was out of work, I think, for 12 months with the GFC, moving to Queensland. 2 kids under 2. I had a lot of time to do some research and do conspiracy theories and why the world was fucked.
Are you happy now though, being up there? Are you happy up where you are?
I love Queensland. Yeah, I love it. I wouldn't go back to Canberra. Definitely wouldn't go back to Melbourne. I love the food, love the culture of Melbourne, but the weather kind of sucks. Yeah. And the people, just so many people. So I'm on the Sunshine Coast. It's a bit more chilled. Yeah, it's the worst part of the year is summer, where it's hot and humid.
Yeah, well, yeah, we're, as you were saying before we recorded, like we're sweating like buggers.
Oh, yeah.
I can imagine you'd be
so what would you
struggling with that beard.
So you want to go up to, you want to find a little bit of land in the hinterland and with a bit of a sea breeze, or Is that the goal?
Just north of Gympie. I think Gympie seems to be the freedom line in Australia. Anything north of Gympie seems to be relatively free. It's a real difference. You go half an hour up the road from me and there's no masks everywhere. Yeah, I go into town, everyone's wearing masks everywhere. It's just strange. In a climate like Queensland, to have cloth diapers on your face, it's just really strange. Traditionally, up until recently, we've not been real mask wearers, and now for some reason everyone's wearing masks. It's really strange.
It's just the lack of. Frankly, I don't care if somebody wants to wear a mask. I don't like it personally, but if somebody else wants to do it, I don't particularly care. I just want to understand the thought process that people have when they walk down the street by themselves in the fresh air wearing a mask. Or I've seen people out riding their bikes wearing a mask. I just don't get it. Like,
it's fear.
It's fear. Just fear, absolutely. But it's not logical. Like, it's just not logical. And I guess, if you're of a Bitcoin,
but it's not their fault. That's the other point.
No, I suspect they're too weak. That they don't want to wear a mask. I don't think people like wearing the mask, but they don't like the social stress or the tension that comes from being different, from standing out. And I found when you walk around the supermarket and you're smiling, you're happy, and you're talking to people, there's this wave behind you that start taking their mask off. It won't be one or two. You sort of go, I saw you before and you were wearing a mask, but now you're not. And you give them a little nod and keep going. Yeah. And you go, I've changed someone's day a little bit.
I really enjoyed actually when the mask. God, when was it now? I'm, as you can probably imagine, not much of a shopper, but I had to. Well, it must have been pre-Christmas, picking up Christmas presents for someone, and I had to go to Target, and it was the time when the masks, for some reason, all came off. When was that?
It was like 1 week,
a week before Christmas or something.
Yeah.
So, and I went, and I was genuinely like, not that I'm like, as I say, I don't take any joy walking around the mall, but
you're licking poles.
No, I was genuinely nice to see people's faces.
I know.
It was nice to see people's faces. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I've missed faces. But it is. It's just. It's just not.
It's very human.
We're not
human. Exactly right. It's very human.
It's dehumanizing. You can't see someone's face, their expression. They're no longer human. They're just these two little eyes sticking over the mask.
Yeah. That's it.
I think that's part of the whole thing, is just taking the humanity out of people, and it's just wrong.
All right. You got more?
No, I've got a bit more.
So Hats has this thing, right, Brisket? I don't know if you've noticed or how many of our pods that we've listened to. I feel when it's time to wrap up a pod, but Hats just wants to keep going.
No, I just want to talk Bitcoin. I don't care. You can stop recording. I don't mind. I'll just send chat to Brisket on this.
Yeah, we can do that.
That was the whole aim. I didn't know what the hell I was going to talk to you guys about. I was like, I'm some pleb. I'm not some.
These are the best. Like I reckon this has been one of the best conversations. Quite honestly, like I've had a lot of fun. So
it's a sit in a chat. So
when there's no agenda, it's usually much better.
It's just more. It's more natural, and what it does is it sometimes can give you the sort of little pauses in a conversation because you're like, oh, what are we talking about next type thing. But generally, it's just a much more open conversation.
Yeah, fully.
And I'm interested. Go on, mate.
So you did Owen recently, and his farm, and whenever I see a Bitcoiner with some land and cows, I'm like, fuck you. How can you justify it? Because I want to do the same thing. I want my land. I want cows. I want to do that for a job. I'm happy for them. I'm like, how can you justify the opportunity cost? And I think there's a whole heap of Bitcoiners who are in a similar position. They want to start building, but they don't have the capital. Everything they want to do is requiring capital. We don't all have to be cow farmers. The whole beautiful thing is that we all do our own thing that we're really good at. That requires a little bit of capital to get going. And I think a lot of Bitcoiners are sitting there going, I was promised 100K by Christmas. What the hell,
I think
I have to work on my job now for another 6 12 months.
Conference day.
What are we at? Well, what are we at? Maybe we're a cycle away from a lot of Bitcoiners with ideas prepared to give up some of their stash, not give up some of their stash, but to just to back themselves with some of their stash, and that's going to be really fucking interesting, right? When people all of a sudden go, I'm feeling good now. I feel like I can walk away from my work, but also I feel like I can lose 10% of my stash, and it's not going to be the end of the world for me. I'm going to go and do this, and I'm going to do it bloody well. And that's like the post I'm going to make. What is I'm going to make you irrelevant. You guys know that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It does have totally butchered.
Oh
that,
no,
but
you've told me this.
It's just one of the greatest tweets ever. But it's just like, no, I'm doing this. I don't care what you say, and it's my money. I don't care. It doesn't matter anymore, right?
I don't care if it's profitable, because it's no longer about the profit.
Yeah.
It's about what I value. I want to do this because I value it.
That's it, right? And it's
different mindset.
It's a huge. It's just what a shift in mindset that is. Yeah. Like everybody out there is. Vast majority of people are thinking, how do I just make enough money to have a quality of life that I'm comfortable with, and sort of in my retirement I'll be okay. That's general mindset, right? It's a pretty pathetic goal, really, if you think about it. You're not making the most of yourself or your life. You're just trying to get by.
Yes.
And nothing against people doing that. A lot of people feel that that's their only thing they can do right now, right? What we're trying to
trap though.
Say again, Mick?
It's a trap. Like, of course, you're stuck on the hamster wheel. You can't stop.
Exactly.
You can't stop running, because then your car repayments and your mortgage repayments and your phone bill and all this shit collapses. Everything's built on this kind of fragile little structure. As soon as you stop running on the hamster wheel, everything collapses, and you go, "Fuck! I'm trapped in this thing. I have to be good. I have to be nice. I can't upset the cart.
I read a tweet the other day, and it was somebody saying that it must be really interesting for people who have just retired. They've felt like they've done this their whole life, and they've just retired, and then basically inflation is putting them back in the workforce, right? It will.
I saw that.
Within the next year or two, it's going to push a lot of these people back in the workforce, because well, hang on a second, I did everything right. Yeah. Why do I not have enough to get by? Why can't I fill up my car? Why can't I shop in the supermarket? Why can't I? And they're going to be questioning that, and then they're going to blame themselves. Firstly, because they're going to think they've done something wrong, when actually they've done nothing wrong. And then I hope that they then go looking for the answer. And that's why people have to get out there with information. But that's tough if you're, I don't know, late 60s maybe, and you're thinking, well, I've worked my ass off for my family, my kids for 40 years. Now's my time, and they're about to find that now isn't their time, and that's not going to be an easy realization for a lot of people.
Yeah. How's your super going? Like, my super's doing all right. I've made the self-managed super fund switch a while ago. Before I switched it over, I had no idea how I was going to retire. A 40-year-old dude working. I've never contributed to my super. I always thought it was a bit of a scam. It was like, I'm not giving you some of my money. You're already taking 7.5, I think it started off at. I've got this little tiny chunk, and you think I'm going to retire on that? And I was always, it's like, what the hell am I going to do with my super? And how much do I need to be able to retire?
When we had
that number keeps going up. Yeah,
when we had Andy on, he was sort of talking through that whole process, and it sounds complicated, but then
what did he say? It was about 6 weeks start to finish though?
Yeah, but he had to set up a company or set up a
self-managed super.
Yeah.
I haven't listened to that podcast. It was really easy. It was
he
crazy.
It was straightforward, but a lot of forms and a bit of sort of around.
It's bureaucracy. You have to set up a company. You become a director. You pay a vig each year. You pay a commission each year to your accountant to do the books and rubber stamp things and push everything through. But it's worth it. There's nothing more lower time preference than your retirement fund. Like, you don't have to worry about that. My whole thing is, when it gets to a certain point, I pull a chunk out of that and buy a farm with it, and then lease the farm off my super company. That's one of the options I'm really keen about, because you don't get to benefit your super until you turn 60, I think it is in Australia.
Well, 60, I thought it was 67 or something.
60 at the moment. I think it's either 60 now or 65. I can't remember. I dare say when we're old enough to use it, they'll have pushed the line a little bit further out.
But that's kind of an example of you taking some of your Bitcoin wealth and an element that you are, inverted commas, prepared to lose, and putting it into something as in backing yourself. And it doesn't have to be
as property. Like, property's not a bad investment still. It's not as good as some other investments, but if I'm going to diversify my superannuation, I kind of wouldn't mind benefiting from it a little bit. And you can't directly benefit from your super fund, but you can, if it passes some sort of business test. I can't remember the wording. which a farm does. It's a business. You then have to set up a business and lease that farm from your super company. So you're paying funds into your super company via the lease, and those obviously get shuffled off into sats, and you get to enjoy the farm, and that's what excites me, because I'm not really prepared to do this whole Bitcoin lending thing. I just don't think it's evolved enough, especially in Australia. It just looks too bloody risky to me.
Yeah. What's your time frame for the farm?
What's your time frame on Bitcoin going to 1 million?
Yeah.
Like that could be it.
This cycle or next cycle, it's 2 or 6 years.
Yeah.
I think this cycle is just going to keep going up. I think it's a different cycle.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I don't know about the keep
moon,
going up part, but I mean, I'm hopeful for that. But I look at it and I go, this is not what's happened before.
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not what's happened before. So
we're almost halfway. So we're 2 years and about 3 or 4 months, I think, until the next halving. We know what happens when the next halving kicks in.
Yeah.
A lot more excitement, and
all of a sudden, when you get sort of within the 12 months of the next one, people start
anticipating the next one.
Attention again. So it's so different. But then if you look at like liquid supply is price is kind of stagnating, but liquid supply is reducing. Like it doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. But what does add up maybe is that more sophisticated professional players have entered the market and are able to suppress price. Whereas your average Joe doesn't know how to do that. So
but you can't do that for so long.
Absolutely,
So
it's like a coiled spring.
The futures ETFs are suppressing the price. Sounds plausible. It makes sense. But how long can you do that for? How long can you sell at a loss, because you're losing fiat for it?
Yep.
Eventually, it has to catch up. There's only a certain number of Bitcoin sitting there. If I keep stacking, eventually it's going to go. Even if no one else in the world stacks and I keep stacking, you're eventually going to run out. There's only a limited supply, so it's
there's a day maybe not a day, but there is a week or a month coming. I have no idea when it is. It's going to rip your face off. It's going to rip your face off. And if you're sitting there trying to time it to make your 2% or you're on a trade, I mean, I read a stat the other day. Like if you were compound annual growth rate is like 146%, but if you'd have missed the top 50 days or something, it's only 9. Right. So the point is there, like if you're out on the good days, you missed the vast majority of the gain, right?
Oh yes.
So had a 4 year. They had a 4 year CAGR, so a 4 year compounded annual growth rate over a 4 year period. So what's the average CAGR over 4 years? I think the lowest, it hit a low recently. I think last month, December, and it got down to 40%. So as a compounded annual growth rate of 40% at its lowest,
yes,
that's pretty freaking good,
Absolutely, but that within that are 1 day, or maybe 10 days or 20 days that when everything just goes rocketing, and if you're out on the rocketing days, you're going to feel like an absolute schmuck.
For 4 years,
and the best of it is you're gonna know you shouldn't have done that, and you're gonna have done it anyway. Like that's if anybody's sitting there thinking I'm going to trade this because the Bitcoin price has gone down a little bit, knock yourself out. Go trade but go trade 10%, 20% of your stack, and don't hate yourself for the rest of your life because you missed the 1 day. That's my advice. No, not financial advice, just
Hat's advice.
Hat's advice. Yeah, buy a new hat. It's
you like to
I
say
just think we're going to get a face ripping day is coming. Sorry, mate.
Hats likes to save people. He wants to be the savior. I'm kind of like, let them burn, let them learn their mistake, because I don't see Bitcoin like it's not. There's no sense of urgency.
He can get pretty salty, old Hats.
I would say I'm both. Like I mean, if somebody does it, if somebody's just ignorant, I've got the God complex or whatever it is, and I am trying to help people, and I if people don't like that, I'm sorry, but it's just who I am. But
Can you see him in a white robe, just sort of floating down?
But if somebody absolutely has the knowledge and choosy, what it's either deceptive or willfully ignorant, whatever, like willfully deceptive, I should say. And I've got no time for that, and they can burn. They can burn us. I don't care.
I just feel at the moment, a whole heap of people are going to experience pain. There's a lot of pain coming for humans on Earth at the moment. It's inevitable. You can't stop it. You can't avoid it. If you try and stop the train coming, you'll get squashed. Like you kind of have to look after yourself. That there is so many threats, I think, coming at you from different angles, and there's no need to put your tinfoil hats on, but don't jump in front of a bus. Like,
yeah,
pick your battles. Yeah.
So okay, mate. Let's. I'll go with you this time. So let's just. My final thing then is, who has been the influential? If there's one Bitcoiner or a couple of Bitcoiners that have been really influential for just you building your own conviction, who is that for you?
Please don't say staking hats.
For conviction, for me, I think John Vallis and his podcast, and he was doing what you guys are doing. He was talking to plebs. I can't remember when I started listening to him, but I was feeling very lonely. I didn't meet any Bitcoiners in real life until Yeppoon. So the Bush Bash was my first time that I'd gone out, and because I'm a bit rural, I don't know that these Bitcoin meets happen. And then I went up to Yeppoon, having not met any Bitcoiners in real life, and suddenly there's a room full of them.
Did you love it? Was it awesome?
It was fucking great.
So
absolutely
good,
great.
So good.
Really good.
Yeah.
And they were mostly Brisbane Bitcoiners because the rest of Australia couldn't get up,
Yeah.
And then they told me about the Brisbane meetup, so I go down to there. But yeah, John Vallis, at the time I was feeling isolated and lonely. I didn't know there were other people like us out there. I could see Twitter going on. I'd found Twitter, but I didn't know people were having these feelings, these changes happening in your life and stuff like that. It was just to hear him talking to normal plebs like me. It was like having a buddy next to you, listening. So he's probably the biggest influencer I've found benefit from.
Yeah.
I picked up conviction from so many other people though.
Vallis is great. He's really articulate without being overly kind of breed love complicated, I think, half the time.
Yeah, more approachable for the average guy.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, I'm a big fan of John
Vallis. Yeah, for sure.
There you go.
He's real.
Vallis.
Say that again, mate.
There's nothing fake. Nothing fake about Vallis. He brings his 100% authenticity to every conversation.
Yeah. Mate, and if that's not a great place to stop, I don't know what is.
Probably about 15 minutes ago when I tried, but that's all right.
Brisket, absolute legend, mate. Thank you very much for taking the time to come on and have a chat with us.
Yeah, that was
more than
awesome.
welcome any other time. And best of luck with the gymnastics. See you at Beechworth, hopefully, yes, and best of luck with the gymnastics, of course.
Yeah. Thanks, mate.
Thank you both, guys.
Love it,
Cheers,
mate. Have a great
mate.
night. Hey guys, if you've made it this far, thanks so much for listening. The plan with the pod is to do sort of guests one week and myself and Brendo the other week, so hopefully that's working for you. If you don't like one of them, just listen to the one you do like. If you want a little bit more information from us, you can find it at bitcoin-first.com/learn.